I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to the Cuddy and Govy Show. We're on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And we're back this week. We want to talk about our show last week. We had Cutman Jr., one of the frat boys here. We want everybody to go back and look at that show. It was a fantastic show. He talked about a lot of stuff that's happening with the 22, 23, 24-year-olds that live in New York City, that just graduated college, all the nonsense that's going on with the protesters on the college scene. First thing we want to get to, as we do every week, is Govy's picks. I had the over in the Eagles game, which was good. I mean, they blew through that.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
But last week we're gonna just talk about Govy's numbers here. He's 1-2-1 for last week. It was a tough week for college, tough week for some of these. Before we even get into these picks, what do you think about some of these referee calls? It's just so bad.
The referee calls, I think that they're finally, it's like, it's happening every week in football, especially. And even the players, I mean, some of these, they're changing the outcome of games. I mean, if you're watching the Thursday night football game and it's the only game on, there's a play that changes the outcome. So people are watching that. Then they're watching the Sunday's game.
Do you think that's because of sports betting that,
I think the referees aren't that good. I think it's now everything is the game is getting too fast for them. They don't know. I think that they're nervous when to call a penalty, when not to. Instant replay. They don't have to blow the whistle if it's a fumble, so they can let the play go on, and then they see what happens. But, like, on pass interference, I think sometimes, like, they become part of the game. They call some penalty where the guy's lined up offsides, yet it changes the outcome. It's like they become the game. I think that you got to start having instant replay, maybe make it where each team gets 2 challenges a half, 2 per half, on interference calls or on holding calls.
So do you think, 68% of our audience is women, and I know a lot of women that watch football, but just, some of the people that contact me after the show, a lot of them are gals, and they say, well, the show's great, this and that, but, the beginning I'm kind of lost because of the football. But let's just give them a little foundation on the challenges right now. It costs them a penalty. Do you think they should?
Costs them a timeout.
Timeout. I'm sorry, a timeout. Do you think they should be entitled to a challenge without a timeout? Because I think they take every challenge they get.
For most, but I would think, how about one without a charged timeout and one with? So you get 2.
Okay.
If you want to, and I think that if you're successful, then it doesn't count. But I mean, you got to do something. You're talking about teams not making the playoffs. You're talking about a team.
You're playing between preseason and the season. These guys are getting busted up. They're probably playing since August.
Yeah,
right?
just one game. It was Green Bay, Kansas City on Sunday night. There was a pass interference call that Kansas City...
It was so bad.
Right. It was unbelievable. Kansas City should have had the ball on the 5-yard line, and probably with 50 seconds to go in the game, they probably would have won the game. And some people would say, well, what's the difference? Kansas City still has one of the best records in the AFC. Well, they no longer have the best record in the AFC, and one team gets a home field bye. They get a bye the first week.
Which is big.
Yeah, you get to rest your players for 1 week. You get the home field advantage.
Home field advantage is huge.
Yeah, rather than Kansas City, say, going into Baltimore to play. I mean, it's a huge difference. And it's like it shouldn't happen that a referee who's making $250,000 a year that is controlling maybe, $200 million, maybe $400 million on a game.
Billions.
On a game, yeah, maybe billions on a game.
Think about it. It could be worldwide, the betting. It's not just United States. Right. But how about, I didn't even understand in the Philadelphia game, because Govy and I are originally from Philly, there was an altercation with a guy on the sidelines, Big Dom, who's been a head of security since 1999 in Philadelphia, and they took him. They ejected him out of the game. I didn't even think he swung back. The player came over, swatted him in the face.
Because I guess he involved himself in the game, maybe picked up the player that was on the ground, his own Eagle player, and I think they leave it to Philadelphia to have our head of security.
Head of security.
He's
teaching protocol, right? He's teaching protocol.
And not allowed to be on the sidelines now. But by the way, he does have his own. He does have his own.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Ben, our producer, top guy, top flight
Big
producer.
Dom.
Here's Big Dom. Look what he did. But it doesn't look like he. Here, can you roll that back one more? Right in his face.
And then he
but he didn't touch him.
He went to, so they wanted to take them both out. But at the same time, he's selling T-shirts, by the way, for autism, for the Philadelphia Eagles, so you can get a Big Dom T-shirt and hoodie. So, I mean, it's just...
He's a fixture in Philly. I mean, he's been there since 1999. He's well loved by the owner. He's made it through at least 3 or 4 coaches, 3 coaches.
He's been there 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. So yeah, it's a shame, but
he was on Penn State. You know, when he first he was on Penn State. Didn't play in the game, but got thrown off the team for some misconduct.
Oh, really?
Some misconduct.
But let me ask you this question: you know, the announcers, they somewhat call out these guys, but they really don't lean on them really bad when there's a bad call. Could the announcers like Tony Romo get fined by the NFL or get fired from their job if they say that ref sucks? That was the worst fucking play I've ever seen.
I'm going to tell you the biggest change. All these announcers now, they have an ex-referee that's part of their like broadcasting crew.
Right.
So anytime there's like a controversy call, they'll have this referee and say, "Hey, Bob, what do you think of that?" And 90% of the time, the referee always used to agree with the referees on the field because maybe they have a relationship. Right. He knows what it's like. Well, this year, I've never seen more times than the person in the booth saying, "That's a bad call. That's a wrong call." So when you
but they don't get crazy. Do you remember who's the guy that did the game? John Madden. John Madden used to go insane in the booth. I mean, he would go nuts. You don't have a Tony Romo or any of the announcers that just go absolutely crazy because look. You know,
Olsen's doing it. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, he does a good job. But we're also investing 3 and 4 hours of our life that we're never going to get back. And you're sitting there at the end of the game and there's a bad call.
Right.
And you're saying, my God, that's it. That's the game.
Right. And the other thing is, as far as if you don't get the #1 overall pick, look, as far as Eagle fans or other people, as long as you make the playoffs, you're kind of happy. But the teams that missed the playoffs because of a game, they invested a whole season. They're, you know...
So I think it's a really fertile subject to talk about. I love talking about it because I want to see the solution to it. They're going to have to come. Govy's a problem solver. I like your idea on the challenge, but I don't think that does it. I think they have to figure another way to instant replay where... So you're saying that a coach can challenge any play on the field to an instant replay booth?
I'll tell you why I think it's going to happen.
Okay.
Because they used to leave it up to judgment. Like a turnover is like they wanted to do because the ball is, you know, changing possessions. But if baseball can put that little square for balls and strikes, which was their only thing that was like judgmental, if baseball can do it, football can do it. If you see a blatant call, and by the way, it doesn't mean they're going to overturn a call that is, if the call on the field stands, just like they're not going to overturn every call. But the ones that are blatantly a penalty, I think you'll see a referee do that.
All right, good. Well, anyway, Gavy's picks this week were 1, 2, and 1. Go ahead, Govy. Give us your picks.
Like I said, Army, by the way, plays this week. So it's Army over Navy this week. I like, in the NFL, I like New Orleans over Carolina -5. The Detroit Lions -3.5 over the Bears.
How'd you do? You had Detroit last week, didn't you?
They won.
They won, okay.
They won. I have the Lions over the Bears -3.5. And I have Green Bay -6.5 over the New York Giants.
And Cowboys-Eagles game, what do you like there? It's 3 points. I saw.
Yeah, it's
yesterday.
3 points. I don't know. After the Eagles San Francisco game, you're a little nervous.
Right.
I mean, we have some injuries. We got to plug in the new linebacker. I think Dallas wins the game. That's what I think. Dallas wins and covers the game.
Well, let's go back. While we're on sports, let's talk about money because we've talked about it before. Baseball, Govy. You see what this kid's about to sign a contract for?
Yeah, it's Ohani is about to sign for $600 million. It looks like
$600 million. Do you know how many watches he can buy with $600 million? He can buy a D. Bethune. He can buy.
But he's an interesting guy because I'll tell you what happened. That's really interesting. The guy could be a Cy Young award-winning pitcher and a Triple Crown hitter. It's never happened. I mean, Babe Ruth, you're going back into the 30s. I mean, he was a pitcher for just a little bit, but this guy is.
But that's a new bar. What I understand, he's great. He's the greatest, or whatever.
But he's not going to make it as. You can't do both because even though he was both this year, again, he hurt his pitching arm,
right.
And he's lucky that he still was able to hit. But he's going to be out of service. He's going to have surgery. He might miss half the year coming up. Just like Bryce Harper. And the thing is, you're not going to be able to get pitching and hitting. It's almost like it's impossible.
But beyond his talents, when you think about $600 million for a baseball player, I mean, it's just insane, these numbers. It's
And there's another pitcher from Japan that they're talking about that's coming over who's a complete free agent. And everybody's bidding. It looks like he's about to get $300 million.
Well, I don't know how it breaks down after you pay your manager, your agent, the IRS. I mean, how much you're left with. I remember a story. George Foreman was fighting Evander Holyfield for the heavyweight championship of the world. Now, you know George Foreman, famous for the George Foreman grill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were both getting $20 million. And they're interviewing George Foreman, and they say, how much out of the $20 million, Evander Holyfield has an agent, has a nutritionist, has a manager, and after he gets the $20 million, he comes home with $6 million. So what do you end up with, George Foreman? He says, my stretching coach is my sofa. I end up with $20 million.
Right.
That's when he was like 40-something,
right.
And he came back for the title.
But where money and sports really comes into play, you get to see it the best during this college football playoff, where you get to see Florida State does not get chosen to be in the bowl playoff series. I am a believer that Florida State got ripped off because
I agree.
They get to choose two games that.
So why don't you explain to? Oh, by the way, because of Jake the frat boy, we are now over. We broke the 200,000 listener mark.
Oh.
The frat boys put us over the edge here. And also, I don't mean to interrupt, but I am. Our website is now repaired. www.cuddyandgovy.com. We're brand new website. We have our merchandise on there, and we're ready to go. So get on that website and keep listening.
Yeah. So support us. Get us some T-shirts.
Yeah.
But Florida State, they got to choose two games outside of their conference, the ACC, and they chose two SEC schools. That's the toughest division. And when they make these schedules, it's 5 years in advance. So 5 years ago, they took the LSU Tigers, who was the national champions, and said, we'll play them. And then they played their in-state rival, the Florida Gators. They beat them both, plus Clemson, plus University of Miami. They ran the table and won every game. The bowl selection committee says, but we don't think you're the best, even though they ended the season number 3 in the AP poll. But they think that they wanted to put Alabama and Texas in the game. So they just said, your season doesn't really make a difference. You're not going to be in the bowl thing. Not to mention that the coach...
Who's they?
The bowl committee, which is the NCAA, has a bowl committee.
All right.
Now, the coach of FSU, in his contract, he gets a bonus if he gets a national championship. Well, he did everything correct. He now can't get his bonus because he doesn't even get the opportunity to play in it. Matter of fact, I think it's so outrageous that Governor DeSantis just put in from the budget from Florida $1 million to give FSU for their legal counsel if they want to sue. The state of Florida is giving $1 million to FSU. He said it's not going to get you anything this year, but you could sue for the damages. I mean, it's money, it's recruiting. No. There's a lot of damages that can be coming from that. Also, the rest of the team, they didn't do anything. They showed up. They actually played better. So I think that is just, it's just horrible for the sport. Another thing with money, which is a very interesting thing that took place this year, is Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban just sold his basketball team. He paid $285 million for it, the Dallas Mavericks, and he just sold it for $3.5 billion to LVS, Las Vegas Sands, which is a casino company, and the fellow that started it, Shelley Edelson, was Donald Trump's biggest supporter, gave him over $100 million in the last election, 2016.
Right, and now
he passed away.
He passed away, and his wife now
inherited everything.
And she bought the team.
Right.
And part of the deal is that Mark Cuban gets to run the team for as long as he wants, basically. And he gets to take his money out, and he still has control of the team. And there are some real strong rumors from people that I know in the NBA that Mark Cuban is going to run for president in 2028. And
you heard it here, folks.
And one of his biggest backers
will be LVS.
Right.
I think her name is Marian Adelson.
Right. And because she's going to still contribute to Trump, is that Trump only is a one-term president. So after 2024, she can concentrate and back Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban, after, he could win. He could literally win because it'll be an open race.
And he's also leaving Shark Tank.
He's also leaving Shark Tank.
So his calendar's wide open to run for presidency of the United States. I think it's a good call. He's all over social media like we are. And I see his reels all the time. And, I think that his kids are going into college in a couple of years. So the
country will be in better shape. It has to be. Hopefully, it'll be in better shape than where we are.
Do you think he could be a vice presidential candidate?
Not now.
How about he won't be?
Not now.
No,
not now. But
how about in the cabinet? Will Trump, if Trump wins, would he put him in the cabinet to get some experience? Secretary of Treasury.
I think that's a great idea. I think he could. I think he could.
Secretary of Treasury.
Yeah, I think he could.
All right. Secretary of Basketball.
Something to do with the internet. Obviously, you found out, like Facebook and all these other schools. Social media. They really they broke the law.
Well, let's talk about that internet for a minute. We have all this Hamas stuff going on right now, the Israeli war, and you have a strong take on the Hamas not releasing the hostages. But first, I want to talk about the New York Post this week had a big article where the Hamas was shorting in the stock market. Means you're betting against the stock price going up. They're betting the price to go down. Hamas was shorting Israeli stocks prior to the invasion. So obviously they knew about the invasion, shorting all the Israeli companies to go down. And consequently, a week or two later, the war broke out. And of course, the Israeli economy is not doing well because there's a war. And all the stocks went down. So it's interesting that none of our intelligence or anybody knew about this pending invasion, yet all these investors of Hamas knew that they could short these stocks, that a war was coming.
Bank Leumi of the Israeli bank.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was some small, it was like the Israeli National Bank basically was shorted. That's bizarre. But that's one of the things. Now it's starting to come out that they really did. They had knowledge. They just blew it, and they blew the recovery. Which brings us to
the hostages.
The
Hamas.
hostages. So now, what's your take? First of all, I think that the remaining hostages are not coming back. One reason why they're not coming back, and Netanyahu talked to the families and basically said we probably won't ever recover them, is the hostages that were released, what was done to them while they were captured. They were raped, they were beaten, they were branded, they were starved, they were put in darkness. I mean, it's not a pretty picture. So in the very beginning, we were thinking, oh, they were being treated okay. I think
they looked okay when they got.
I think they were in shock. Some of them were in shock. They also said that they drugged them. They medically drugged them to put them in like a.
Well, also what they did, they would release one or two members of a 3-member family, so that the hostages were scared. They were released to custody of these.
And they didn't want to say anything so they don't hurt the other two.
Right.
Exactly. So now the rest that are there, I think, are so damaged that they would rather. Israel would rather not even the Hamas wouldn't want to release them. And I think Israel, to your thing, why do you think Israel doesn't want them back?
Well, I think Israel needs to go in there and finish this job. And right now, there's so many. I understand a family member, a hostage. It's absolutely horrible. But you have to. It's war. It's terrible. You have to look at the greater picture, the greater good. And I think these hostages at this point, the ones that are coming back are damaged and horrified by what they experienced and what they saw. I think they have to just go in there, clean things up, and not worry about these hostages anymore. After a month and a half, it appears that many of them are dead, or they're going to be dead soon, or they're going to blame the deaths on the Israelis. So why not go in there and just do your job and clean things up? It's a really, really difficult situation, but the problem is you have to. For future wars and future problems, you have to get rid of this hostage card. I mean, the hostage card's a really bad card, and we're playing into it too much. And we have to change our strategy here.
Well, wasn't it years ago the United States, one of the things was we do not negotiate for hostages?
We never did. Now we're giving $1 billion per hostage for the 6 hostages.
You could see that maybe there's we have to go back to the way it was. Not to mention Israel's going to, these hostages. They could have a good lawsuit against Israel by saying that Israel dropped the ball, that they were tortured, that Israel did not defend them the way it should be. I mean, I have a friend of mine who was a president of a watch company, and this is going back 30 years ago, 40 years ago. His parents and brother were on a bus, and some terrorists came on the bus, shot his mom and dad, and shot his brother. His mom and dad survived, but his brother was killed. And there was a lawsuit that took 30 years to settle. And the settlement was in the neighborhood of, I believe, in the 40 million plus neighborhood. And that's a lot of hostages. There were 1,200 people here that were killed.
Right. That Israel wasn't paying attention to their intelligence, and all these people and all these families suffered. I'm sure there's great lawyers that could get tons of money for
and
this.
And the time frame. How about that they were going, how long did this take? How long did this attack take? Hours?
Yeah.
So you're talking real money here that it's can come down to. So that's
Yeah, so, this whole hostage situation's a really bad deal. And then, of course, we still have the protesting on campuses, and we have...
It's out of control.
With Bill Ackman and, the hedge fund guy and all his positions with the presidents of these universities, they need to resign. And it's really a tough situation, this whole... I think... It's like last week you asked my opinion how much longer I think the war's going to last, and I say not much longer because the world's coming down on Israel.
I said months.
And you said months, so, hopefully...
I think, first of all, Bill Ackman, you know what? As time goes by, I think he could run for president. I think this is a political guy that he's going to be in the news. He's saying, I agree with everything he says. I'm telling you, he could be a presidential candidate.
Do you know if he's a Republican or a Democrat?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Ben, could you check on that? Bill Ackman, is he a Republican or a Democrat? Probably you wouldn't be able to know. Probably doesn't.
My guess is I might say a Republican, but I'm not sure. But what really set him up is these presidents. He made a comment yesterday in Congress. The presidents were Harvard, MIT, and I believe Penn were in front of Congress, and they asked the president of Harvard. They asked her. I believe her last name is Gay. They asked her.
She's an African-American woman.
Yeah, and they asked her basically, when someone says genocide, that we want to cause genocide on the Jews, isn't that breaking Harvard's, code of conduct? And she said they tried to put that under free speech, and basically you have to wait for an attack or a killing to take place for them to do anything. And Bill Ackman basically said it's the dumbest thing he's ever heard. He said if she worked for his company, she would be gone in an hour. All of the presidents would be gone in an hour. I can't believe people are actually saying that they want to cause a genocide, want to cause thing, and they're saying that it's still freedom of speech. I think is bizarre.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
Bill Ackman is a Democratic political donor
Wow,
investor.
that's amazing.
But it is reported that Bloomberg Television, he is much more open to Republican candidates.
There. Okay, so that's the perfect. He's the perfect guy.
But
that
he's speaking out against free speech, which is really, a big mantra for the Democrats.
But I think here's a guy that is he's either right and leans left, or he's left and leans right, and that's the perfect type of mix that you would want right now.
It said he's a supporter of both former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
Right.
Okay.
Crazy. Well, I think it's.
By the way, Chris Christie's niece just got into trouble. We got away from our winners and losers, but she's what a loser
what
that
happened to her? I don't even know. How's he related to her?
It's his
wife, or through the wife's side or his side?
I think through his side.
Ben, can you check that one out?
Yeah, this one is.
Thank God for Ben. He's here. He's the man. We're unprepared. We only spent 3 minutes getting ready for this show.
Who am I looking up?
Chris Christie's niece that just got in trouble.
Yeah.
Find out how he's related to her.
She got in trouble actually a year ago. She got arrested a year ago on a Spirit Airlines flight flying from New Orleans to, I believe,
Is
New
it
Jersey.
Mary Pat, his wife's relative, or
she went ballistic on the plane? She went ballistic. She bit people. She went. She was foaming out of the mouth.
What?
Yeah, she was unbelievable. She then dropped the "You don't know who my uncle is," and I'm friendly with Donald Trump. And today they just upped the crime to a felony. They increased the charges. She's looking at 1 year to 3 years in jail.
Yeah.
So it's.
Does it say who she's related to?
Looking, it's. I think.
But anyway,
does she look like Chris Christie?
a skinnier version, but
let's stay on this. We're talking about African American head of Harvard. Why do you believe that the African Americans are not on the Jew side? Here. The African American people, for all these different years, have been oppressed over, everything. And now the Jewish people, just because we're Jewish, people are calling for our death and looking at us like we have 3 heads. Why do you think that African Americans are not coming out and supporting the Jews?
I'm not sure if it was Bill Ackman asked some Harvard professors who did not want to go on the record or anything, but gave their opinions, and it was very interesting. Basically, a lot of African Americans looked at Jews not as like anti-Semitism, didn't look at religion. They looked at it more in race, white or black. And finally, some people are probably saying they looked at the Jews as white, and some of the horrible things that took place, from rapes and everything, it was almost like, okay, they're getting a taste of their own medicine, where it was like, it's okay, it's happened to people that are occupiers. So they didn't look at it as anti-Semitism. I think they looked at it more in the race situation. And
well, I think a lot of the African American community associates themselves with the Muslims,
right? Islam and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of them, like Muhammad Ali or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and
but they're not like a jihad. They're not. You know.
But they're part of a larger community.
Yeah, they're part of a. So I think most of it is ignorance, and they don't even understand what it is. I mean, it's just Israel's is a little sliver. There's many, many, many more Arabs that are being killed by their own people, and yet no one says anything. Or there's Africans being killed by a genocide. No one says anything. Here, it's like, you know, it's Israel's protecting themselves, and it's a big deal. So I think, has a little bit to do with race, that they're putting Jews into a race category that it's really not, and I don't think they really quite understand the whole.
I mean, obviously, if you look at an African American, you can tell they're African American. Do you think you can look at a person and tell whether they're Jewish or Irish or Italian? Do you think that there's some sort of, telltale sign that you can tell somebody?
Oh, I'll tell you what's interesting. I think
other
another
than wearing
Jewish
a yarmulke.
No, I think a Jewish person can look at another person and can be 80%. They could tell another Jewish person from another person.
Really?
And I think that other people that are Caucasian.
See, I would look at you and I would say you're Italian.
A lot of people in Europe will think I'm Italian.
Yeah,
they do. But a lot of Jewish people in the United States would say that I'm Jewish.
No, I think that Irish people have a distinct look. You can generally, especially Irish women, if they're fair and they have red hair or something like that. Or English. Yeah. So, we get into that cross section here, and it gets kind of tricky. And I'm surprised I have so many African American friends, and everyone I talk to the person is very sympathetic and thinks it's disgusting, but yet when you read the papers and everything, you see a backlash against the Jewish people.
But that's a lot of people that just aren't aware. I think they never really learned it. They're trying to learn it now in schools. The problem is they're getting the Palestinian views. It's like, the teachers, it's like, it's so crazy on the education the propaganda that's going out there, that it's Israel's losing the propaganda war. And one of the things that you could tell is, like, you could take a CNN reporter or an anchor, and just even the hostages, the word, they could sit there and say, we are having a hostage transaction that's going to go. We're going to swap Israeli hostages for Palestinian hostages. It's 3-1. For every Jewish hostage, Israel has to release 3 Palestinians. The difference is, Israel's hostages that Palestinian had, they went in the morning, they took babies, they took women, they took them out of their beds as hostages. Israel, they're not hostages. Most of them are prisoners. They either did something. They either shot at, tried to stab someone, tried to blow up someone. Yes, some even threw a little rock to a police officer, and they held them. They held them maybe without a trial right off the bat. But they didn't go into Palestine and say, let me kidnap a bunch of people so I have some hostages so we could trade. Something they caused where they were arrested. The Palestinians went in and just basically they're kidnapping. So the word hostage versus hostage isn't true.
Right.
It's hostage versus versus like a prisoner is
Right.
more accurate.
And why isn't there a public outcry, for all the women that are being raped? I mean, where are all these women community people not jumping up and down like back in the day? What was her name? Gloria. What was her name? Gloria. I forget her name. Steiner. Yeah. I mean, why aren't these women going nuts over the fact that these women are being abused and raped?
How about Michelle Obama when she said, "Bring our
Michelle
girls"? Those
Obama.
T-shirts that said, "Bring our girls home." Remember when they went into Nigeria or something? They kidnapped all those girls.
Where are all these people now? Why aren't they going crazy? Like The View. Why aren't the women on The View absolutely going nuts over all the raping and the Palestinians raping these poor women?
Because Jews are now under a completely...
So the Jewish women are supposed to be raped. Is that what it is?
Obviously, Jews are finding out that they're at a different... There's a different rule or feelings towards Jews than anybody else. And I think that's obviously... it's obvious right now.
I have no respect for those women that are on that TV show, The View. But if they stood up for women and screamed and hollered about, these Palestinians raping them, I would feel a little differently towards their positions. I mean, the fact that they're just burying it.
I hate that
yeah,
show.
I know. But, it's a platform that they should use to the good. And they're not.
And, it's... So... You got to look at I think it comes from the top. I think it comes from President Biden. It comes from his Pierre, the speaker.
She's terrible.
I mean, she can't even just
Press secretary.
Press secretary. She was on The View the other day.
She just blinks all the time. She goes
and Biden
I can't handle the blinking.
And Biden made a major thing yesterday. I think it's a faux pas that he did, but basically, he made a comment that said if Donald Trump wasn't running, he probably wouldn't run. And the only reason why he's running is because Trump's running and that he's the Democrats' chance to beat him. And I think it's the opposite. I think the Democrats would have a better chance of beating Donald Trump without Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going down. He's not going to be the candidate. I mean, you have all this stuff with Hunter Biden's coming out. I mean, it's... he's not going to be able to handle it. I mean, the guy, I think he's
looks
corrupt.
like in the last 6 months, he's really starting to, deteriorate.
Yeah, and he still has another 6 months to go. And then he wants to go for 4 more years after that. Nobody wants him. He's going to drop out. It's a matter of time. And just that comment, if Donald Trump wasn't there, he wouldn't be running. That's all you need to know. It's over. It's going to be over for him.
Incidentally, Ben, is Mark Cuban a Republican?
I think he's a Republican now, but he's an independent. But he's not for Trump.
Because I know he's not for Trump. He never liked Trump. They were very competitive over all their money and everything. But now he's hooked up with Miriam Edelson.
Yeah, who is that
is a very, very big Republican.
In 2015, Cuban said on his private messaging app that he wants to be a Republican but disagrees with them on most social issues, according to the Washington Post. He said he wants a smaller and smarter government, but called the GOP a mess.
Right. Well, but that was 2015.
That was 2015.
So now all of a sudden, I think people are starting to realize that maybe the immigration system is right now. They had do you know yesterday 12,000 people came across the border? It was an all-time record. In one day, all-time record. In the end of the month, it'll be 360,000 people. By the way, most of the people that came across the border yesterday were Chinese. Don't you have to sit there and say, why is China sending people coming over there? Who are these people that...
They're finest and best.
Right. Who are these people? When you have the head of the FBI, Wray, saying... we have a code red right now. It's blinking. He said the last time it blinked like this, going code red, was right before 9/11. It's only a matter of time that something's going to happen. What I don't understand, and a lot of people don't understand, politicians included, Joe Biden has the ability, with an executive order, say we are in a state of emergency, close our borders, we don't know who's coming in here, and he can immediately close all borders. Everybody has to be, can't come in. For our borders to still be open is a joke, because we have no idea where they are. And
Well,
the Democrats...
how about the residual effects, the drugs, the human trafficking, let alone, I understand the crime. Yeah, he wants to build the Democratic base and let these people wave a wand to make them all voters. But, the residual effect of all the crime and all the fentanyl and all the deaths. And
but
all
Chicago doesn't want them now. New York doesn't want them now. I mean,
well, now in Philly, they're stabbing security guards.
Right, the shoplifting now, this minor little thing, like let them shoplift. Yeah, it turned into now they stabbed 2 security guards, one passed away. In the center of Philadelphia, where they have the best Christmas light show for 60 years, 80 years? It's a tourist attraction that they come to. You can't go in there. You have to worry about that someone's going to stab you.
It's terrible. Well, anyway, that's the liberal, slant on most of these big cities. And,
they don't know how to handle it.
Well, they agreed to make them sanctuary cities. Now they're suffering. Now they don't want to do it. And they're going broke.
You want to know what it really comes down to? The red states and the country, because they're not going to get bailed out by money. Money isn't going to solve this thing. They need the blue states, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, San Francisco. They need to say the word uncle. They have to say, sanctuary cities, it did not work. We weren't anticipating this. We are no longer a sanctuary city. We can no longer house you. Don't come here. I
think that's a great idea.
It has to happen.
Well, we have a couple other things on our plate here. One is this Bitcoin. Bitcoin's, let's talk about the economy a little. It's Christmas, and the stock market seems to be doing good, and it's recovering from last year. And we have Bitcoin that was as high as 65,000, went all the way down to 16,000 per Bitcoin. Now it's up in the mid-40s. It's coming back strong. Yeah. And I think, a lot of these Bitcoin millionaires are going to be buying Christmas watches. They'll be at the watch plate, all the watch venues buying watches. But we have, this guy, I can't even say his
Menendez.
name. Yeah,
well, he's a senator from New Jersey. And by the way, just to say one thing, Santos was the congressman from New York.
Right. Who was just expelled.
He was just expelled. And he's the first person ever to be expelled that was never tried yet and found guilty. So he hasn't even had his hearing. So the Democrats wanted the Republicans to do the right thing and to expel him, even though the Republicans hold the sliver of power in the House.
Right,
they
6 seats.
Right, so they still wanted them to give up one of their people. Well, very interesting. The Democratic senators for this guy Menendez, who is a thief, who basically got caught with the gold bars in his house. Now it turns out that these gold bars were stolen, and they're marked so that each gold bar you can identify, the FBI can tell you they can identify, was stolen from the person who bribed Menendez.
And he's still in the Senate.
Now,
and still has a security clearance.
Yes. Now, the reason why he's in the Senate, here's one fact for you. Because Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, they went to independents, even though they still mainly vote Democrats. Do you know Kamala Harris just voted the other day?
Another name I can't pronounce.
Kamala Harris. Do you know she was the deciding vote that they needed her to vote to break the tie more times than any other vice president in the history of the United States?
That's an interesting fact.
So that's how important it is. So if they kicked out Menendez, Kamala Harris wouldn't be able to make the deciding vote. The Republicans would control the Senate. So that is the reason why Menendez is still there.
And if they kick out Santos, it doesn't matter.
The Republicans saw it, but yet
because 100 Republicans voted for him to be thrown out.
Right, but and all the Democrats say do the right thing. Yet here's Menendez, who's already been indicted twice. By the way, he's dead in the water left and right here, and yet they're willing to tell the country
He's a rat.
Right.
That's the problem.
He will be. He will be.
He knows. He was head of the Foreign Relations Committee. He knows exactly what Joe Biden stole. He knows what his son stole. He knows what his brother stole. He has the dirt on everybody.
He can destroy them.
Destroy him. And they don't want him, they're scared of the fact that he has a get out of jail free card. And they don't want him to rat, so they're letting him coast.
Until after the election. And by the way, a deal that...
And then Biden can maybe pardon him.
Now, that's exactly where I was going.
Conspiracy theory.
Right, there it is. Because then, if it happens... At least Biden can pardon him, and that's it. Then he goes away in the sunset afterwards, and Biden pardons him.
Yeah, because obviously Joe Biden could not pardon anybody right now if he's running for re-election.
Right.
But once he wins re-election, if he wins, he can pardon him.
Right. He would lose the election if he tried to pardon him.
Yeah.
He could pardon him. He would lose the election.
Right.
And that would be a problem. So that's kind of crazy that... and then don't forget, they're trying to still block the Epstein. They want the flight logs coming in with Epstein.
And why do you think that's the case, Govy?
Why do I think? Because they don't
Who
want to...
was on that plane?
Clinton.
Yeah. So
Bill Gates.
Epstein was the pedophile guy, and he had his own private jet. I think it was called Loyola Express or something like that. And
he had his own island.
And he had his own island, and he used to take rich and powerful people to the island. And this is before we were podcast superstars and powerful.
Prince Andrew.
Yeah, he would take Prince Andrew. He took Clinton. He took a whole bunch of people, and I think he took Jamie Dimon, head of
right.
Didn't he take J.P. Morgan? In any event. The government won't release. When you bring somebody on a private plane, they have to have their name registered.
Right.
And they will not release the FAA.
Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, he has the power to release it for some reason. All it takes is a little signature and it can be released. He specifically is not doing it to protect these cologs. He has that power to do. And look, let's look at the people. Prince Andrew, we already know that he was on it. Look where he ended up. He's basically kicked out of the royal family, and they told him to go live in the shack.
I would like to be kicked out like he's kicked out.
Bill Gates,
he's still living good.
Melinda, kicked him to the curb.
Yeah, that cost him a few bills.
The reason why they got divorced, guarantee it comes right back to this Epstein. Hillary Clinton, she already knew what she got. I mean, she's already tested tough. But I mean, you can go on and on and on the damage is out there. The damage has already been out there. And Epstein, he's dead. And I don't think he killed himself.
Yeah, no. But do you believe, like, on an issue like this, the Democrats and the Republicans are on the same side of not releasing flight logs because they know the damage it does to everybody? It's like, chaos.
It could be. But you know what's crazy? Do you think if Hollywood wanted to make a movie right now, because let's face it, Epstein's been dead for like 2 years already.
Right. Why
isn't George Clooney playing the role of Jeffrey Epstein? You have sex, drugs, you have everything, politicians, power, you have royalty. Why isn't this a movie?
Well, I think you need to find an actor that wants to be a pariah, like, somebody that's already a Will Smith or a Mel Gibson that's already a pariah. Well, who wants to play Epstein? I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, if that's your field, if you're a professional. Right. But George Clooney could play Jeffrey Epstein, and people would then go, and that would make more people. Put some people. I mean, I think it would be a #1 box office smash hit.
Would you go see it?
Absolutely.
Would you?
Yeah.
I don't want to know about all that crap. I mean, I don't.
Get a guy that plays Bill Gates. Here's
the
guy.
fact that they're having sex with underage women. I mean, I just don't. That's not.
It doesn't have to be. You can make
I can't sit there and eat popcorn and watch that.
You could have scenes with Bill Gates on the plane.
That's true. You could juice it up that way. Yeah, you could juice it up that way.
Don't you remember the what was that movie with the Rolling Stone magazine? They were on an airplane.
Yeah. I forget the name of it.
And they were playing. They thought the plane was going down.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they're all telling you everything that they did.
And then the plane straightens out.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine if you had that plane?
Right.
Could you imagine having a plane and Epstein's on it and everybody's confessing to everything they did and then it came back up there?
That's unbelievable.
Was it called Almost Famous?
Yes,
Yeah, Almost Famous.
Almost
And what
Famous.
was the girl that was in it? She was great.
Yeah.
Who
She's a
remembers?
star now.
Yeah, she's a star now. She was great.
And it was whatchamacallit. It was the Elton John song that came up, I think, like times.
Kate Hudson?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kate Hudson.
yeah,
Yeah,
Kate Hudson.
she's great. She's great.
Beautiful.
So,
Anyway, we're coming to the end of this show.
But I
here,
gotta tell you,
guys.
one thing I gotta let everybody know. I turned my friend on here, Cuddy, onto Mugsy Genes,
I have a pair of Mugsies on today.
which are a great gene company, and
Maybe we could get them as sponsors of the show, Govy.
yeah, and they're fantastic. I had my brother; he's now wearing them. It's unbelievable. So I'm telling you, guys, buy Mugsy Genes. But the one drawback that Cuddy has is Cuddy is now a 31-inch waist.
31 Mugsies.
Yeah, 31-inch waist. And it used to be jeans, they would put your size on the outside.
Like the Levi's.
Yeah, like the Levi's.
We used to buy Levi's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, when Cuddy was a larger size.
40. It used to be a 40.
He would wear his belt on the outside of that tag so he could cover it rather than putting it through the loop that you could see it. The skinny people put the belt through the inside. The heavier people put it through the outside. Now, Mugsy puts the size on the inside flap. And Cuddy wants to try to show, how do I put that on the outside now?
Well, I did take a picture of it, and I sent it around to everybody, sent it to the world.
I showed it to my brother.
Yeah.
He's like, wow.
Size 31s, and, look, there's a Seinfeld episode where Jerry Seinfeld was, I think, a 34 waist, and he penciled across the Levi's 32.
Yeah.
So everybody knew, everybody thought he was a little thinner. But yeah, look, it's all fun, and the fortunate thing about you and I, Govy, is we have all different sizes in our closet from all through the years. We just don't throw clothes out.
No.
We have
That is one thing. You don't throw clothes out.
We have size 40 all the way down to size 31.
And you'll say, because you never know.
Right.
You never know.
And it seems to work out better that way. You go in the closet and you try on 5 pair of jeans and, maybe
And
one
sometimes
pair
you see an
fits.
old friend, you go, hey, haven't seen you in a while, So
Anyway, folks, it's Christmas time. It's December. We're in the first week of Christmas. And, I'm in the car after Thanksgiving a lot. And it's the Christmas music playing on the radio. It's a lot of fun. And you listen to the oldies but goodies. I think, is it Mariah Carey that has that big song? I mean, she comes out of the woodwork every year.
She's conchinging. I want to know how much
12
money.
cents for every song.
How much money does she make the month of December?
Oh my God, she's got to get like a royalty for every
I
single.
know. It's amazing. It's amazing.
But maybe the stores will be real busy. It'll be a fruitful holiday season. We'll sell a lot of watches, right?
Yeah.
And if there's inventory, and the internet's gonna do great with all the online shopping. So I keep driving by the mall. I see a lot of cars in the parking lot over at the mall too. So it looks great. Anyway, folks. Thank you so much. We want to give you a heads up. We have a show next week. And then do we have a show the week after? And then we're off for a week. We don't have the Cuddy and Govy private jet yet. We're still flying coach, but, we're going to get out of town for a little, hopefully. And, enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, and it's as in Philadelphia we say it's Dallas week this week. So Sunday is a big game.
Big game. It's the biggest game.
Is it Monday night or Monday? It could be Monday night.
And Dallas and the Eagles are right in the hunt.
Right.
And it'll be a big rivalry.
Oh, it'll be brutal if the Eagles lose
Now,
to
hopefully,
Dallas.
Big Dom, our security guard guy, will be on the side of the field and protect the Eagles. But it'll be fun, and hopefully the refs call fair game.
Yeah.
All right, folks, have a great week. Thank you.
See ya.
'Cause I'm only